Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, along with my co-host, Daniel Bobo Kurlan. And we're just getting ready to jump into it right now. This is episode 3. We've had a lot of fun over the first 2 weeks. Dan, 2 weeks down, we're on to week 3. How you liking doing this podcast so far?
I'm really enjoying this podcast so far. It's been the various friends, family members. I've even got a congratulatory text from the relatives in Florida, and even my two older brothers, the one in Texas and the one in SoCal, texted me. So I got some congratulatory text from
very cool. Yeah, everybody seems pretty pumped about it, as me and you both are too. And you know what? Let's jump right into it. Why wait? Me and you were just talking about it before we went live. New York City has dropped this vaccine mandate that applies to businesses and private industries and stuff like that. And Mayor Eric Adams finally relented. He dropped this whatever qualification or law or mandate, whatever you want to call it. Specifically, I believe that the way they described it was that it's specifically for professional athletes. So even though he said just a couple of weeks ago that professional athletes will not be getting any preferential treatment, it seems like they are, considering 1,400 people just got fired last month because of this mandate. But whatever, I'm very happy this mandate got dropped. It looks like Kyrie Irving is going to be allowed to play again. I'm not a Net fan, but I'm very happy with this. Kyrie deserves to be playing again. It's ridiculous what he's gone through this year in this city. And we don't got to worry about any unvaccinated Mets and Yankees being precluded from playing in New York City. Dan, off the top, how you feeling about this?
I'm excited about that. It's finally the Mayor Eric Adams finally wised up. Kind of makes me kind of wonder how much money Steve Cohen had to pay the mayor.
Exactly. There's something going underneath the table right now. Somebody's palm got greased because of this little mandate being dropped, but I don't care. This is what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to be allowed to play. This vaccine mandate was not protecting anybody. It's complete political garbage anyway. So thank God reason prevailed and we don't got to worry about this crap anymore, right?
Yep. I have to worry about the city more, and it's bad enough I got to worry about some of the history of some of the misfortunes that have happened to Met players. This is the last thing I wanted to worry about come start of the season, is that a player, all of a sudden we couldn't make it because, I don't know, because Jacob deGrom was unvaccinated. He couldn't play in Game 7 of the World Series. It's the last thing I want.
Yeah, you got that right, man. No doubt about that. And anybody too. You could even, a little spark plug like Brandon Nimmo not being able to play would have stunk. And, if you're a Yankee fan, it's not 100% confirmed that he's not vaccinated, but people have kind of jumped to the conclusion that Aaron Judge is not vaccinated because of his choice to not answer the question straight up. He preferred to not tell the reporters that he's vaccinated, that he's not vaccinated, which pretty much, leads everybody to believe that he's not. But either way, glad it's dropped. Now the only problem the Yankees got to worry about is getting this contract figured out with Aaron Judge, as apparently they're trying to lowball him a little bit, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Just wanted to jump into that breaking news right off the bat. So breaking news, if you haven't heard yet, although you've probably heard by now, since we're talking about this on Wednesday night, and this is going to be coming out on Thursday morning. But in case you haven't heard yet, the vaccine mandate has been lifted in New York City for professional athletes. So New York sports fans rejoice. We're not being held to this anymore. Very cool, very cool to jump in right off the bat. So now let's get all of the other official business out of the way. Next week is going to be our Major League Baseball predictions show. I figure we do that next week. That sounds agreeable to you, right, buddy?
That sounds like a great little thing for next week.
Yes, and just as we did it last year, if you remember, we had my cousin Michael Christodora come on as he has his own podcast. I've extended an invitation to him as well, so he'll be joining us, discussing, just giving our, predictions for the winners with for all the division winners and what we see at this point in the year coming out on next season. Or for later this year, because the season technically hasn't started yet. We're still in spring training. We're just about in April right now. So very cool. We'll be doing that next week. And we're definitely going to be doing our NFL draft next month as well. That'll be some point before the NFL draft, which I believe is April 28th or April 30th. So we'll be doing our draft right around there. Daniel Kurlan will be stepping in as the general manager for the New York Football Giants, and yours truly, Rob Cramer, will be the general manager for the New York Jets. And that's a horrifying thought, if I do say so myself. But so just to get all of our plugs out of the way, you could follow us at BSITH, BSITH _podcast on Twitter, Best Seat in the House podcast on Instagram. Check us out. We have all of our stuff on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And Dan, if you want to give yourself a plug for your Instagram, your YouTube, and anything else you want to plug.
Of course, you could always follow me on Twitter. I'm Bobo103NYC. You also got my Instagram, Bobo718DK. You also got my YouTube, Daniel Kurlan. It's one word. I got content on YouTube. There's gonna be some stuff. There's gonna be some exciting stuff I'm filming in the coming weeks. I got a little funny sketch I might be filming on opening day, which I'm looking forward to filming.
Very cool, man. And if you want to follow me, you can check me out on Twitter at my last name Cramer, CRAMERNY for New York. So check me out there. Check out Dan, all of the stuff we got going on. There's a lot to get into right now as we have just a bunch of news. But you know what? One thing that I really want to start off with, because it's still sticking in my craw from last night, the game which was played on Tuesday night. We're going to start off with our New York Rangers. And, we had so much to be happy about. For the hours leading up to this game, because they had the NHL trade deadline on Monday, which came down to the wire as the Rangers made a couple of big deals as they acquired Tyler Mott from the Canucks for a 2023 fourth round draft pick. They acquired Andrew Kopp and a sixth round pick from the Jets for Morgan Barron, a conditional first round pick, but it could end up just being 2 second round picks if the Rangers don't make the Eastern Conference final. And also they traded a fifth round pick for next year too. They also traded a couple of guys. They traded they brought in Nick Merkley from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Anthony Boteto, who was a big favorite last year when he came to the team for his first run. And also, you can't forget how the Rangers picked up Frank Vetrano last week for a fourth round draft pick. So, a lot of moving parts. They also picked up, as I'm remembering right now, defenseman Justin Braun from the Philadelphia Flyers for a fourth round draft pick. So a lot of draft picks being moved out. Luckily, only Morgan Barron was only the roster player. And I do like Morgan Barron a lot. I'm very happy for him that now he's going to be getting to go to a team where he's going to be able to play more than 10 minutes a night on the ice. So I'm very excited about that. Dan, before we get into the disgrace that was the game against the Devils yesterday, how do you feel coming out of this trade deadline on the other side of it?
I feel we were successful in the trade deadline, and I feel like the sky's the limit from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, so Chris Drury, his first year at the trade deadline, it felt different than in years past, right?
Yeah, it just felt different.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not even saying that because obviously for the couple of years prior to this, we've been sellers at the deadlines. As we have seen guys like Zuccarello and Ryan McDonough and JT Miller and Kevin Hayes and all these guys that we grew to love over the years get traded and this roster get peeled down and torn down. And then Jeff Gordon and JD, John Davidson were able to build this team back up. Unfortunately, maybe our owner got a little, a little sick of waiting and turned around and handed the reins over to Chris Drury. They fired the head coach, David Quinn, brought in Gerard Gallant, who I'm very happy with Gallant so far. And I was not overly thrilled with Chris Drury in the offseason. I did like how he added some toughness, adding obviously Ryan Reeves and Sammy Blais. I did not like the return other than Blais for Pavel Buchnevich. Give up a guy who's looks like he's going to score 30 goals this year for a second round pick and Sammy Blais. Kind of hurts, kind of leaves you wanting a little bit. But I think Chris Drury completely redeemed himself with what he did at this deadline. And what do you think about that, Dan?
I think that's pretty much an accurate depiction. He did pretty well with himself at this deadline, and I really can't wait to see how this season turns out.
Oh, I agree. And just like you said earlier, I think the nose is pointing up. The needle is pointing up on the New York Rangers. There are a couple of red flags, and we'll get to that right now. As even prior to this game against the Devils, the Rangers have had a couple of lapses recently where, even in that game, they played a game against the Dallas Stars a week or two ago where they won 7-4. But Igor did not look good in that game. He looked very shaky. This is in Igor, his last 5 starts, he's allowed 4 more goals 3 times. Very, very unlike Igor. Also, over his last 5 starts, he only has an 878 save percentage. 878. This is a guy who coming into yesterday had a 938 save percentage. 938. The NHL record is 94, 940. He is right there on the precipice of, a potentially historic NHL season. But over the last few games, his play has kind of, subsided a little bit, and it's not fully on the goaltender at all. I'm not blaming Igor. He also played a great game against Tampa Bay in that, in which the Rangers won 2-1. So I'm not taking anything away from Igor right now. But, what are your feelings on this right now, Dan? Where do you blame the defense more? Do you blame the team more playing, in front of Igor? Or do you think, maybe Igor is just at this point in the season where he's in a little bit of a lull and he has to kind of wake himself out of it?
Well, I think it's a bit of combination of Igor and a little low that I'm sure he'll get himself out of. I also think the team, yesterday's game, I think they got a little bit too comfortable with that 2-goal lead in the second period. I think they kind of, I feel like they weren't still going on full steam the entire game. Like they kind of during the rest of the game.
Very true, man. And as you just alluded to, so the Rangers played the New Jersey Devils yesterday. The Devils are not a playoff team, although they've been playing much better lately. Jack Hughes, this kid Bratt is a stud. Jack Hughes obviously is a stud. The Devils have some players on that team, no doubt about it. But the Rangers should have been able to handle them. And the first period, they did. The first period, the Rangers looked flawless. They came out, they scored that Zibanejad goal that made it 1-0. Then they put another one in to make it 2-0. And you're going into the second period saying, oh, man, we're going to get 2 easy points here. And then before you knew it, the storm just started in the second period. Before you know it, it's 2-1. Then if you blink, it's 2-2. Before you know it, it's 3-2, 4-2, and then eventually 5-2. And it was just freaking terrible, just absolutely awful that second period. One of the worst periods I've ever seen the Rangers play. It's the second time this year that they gave up 5 goals in the second period. They also did it against the Colorado Avalanche in either November or December, whichever one it was. But
Maybe,
what's that?
That the cable was out last night. Well, because the cable was out for like a day or two, so I actually couldn't watch the Rangers game. So so luckily my eyes were saved from seeing the abomination of last night's game.
It's true, man. Who do you have? Spectrum?
Yeah, I have Spectrum, and what happened was there was some issue with the wiring or something outside. It was some of the cable lines that needed to be they needed to make some adjustments, because that's the reason why some channels were not working. So today I had to rush home from work to make sure to catch the cable guy, to make sure that keep an eye, make sure what was going on. But he got it done, and everything should be good to go for tomorrow.
Very cool, man. Well, Spectrum did you a massive favor because having to watch that game yesterday was a freaking chore. I was not happy with that. The Rangers came back. Actually, they ended up making it 5-3, and then they had a chance to make it 5-4, but on a give and go, on a breakaway, it was a 2-on-1. Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, they were giving it back and forth to each other until they got right to about the goalie. And, Kreider even said it, that him and Mika have done this a million times in practice. They've been over this and done it a million times. And for whatever reason, he tried to make one extra pass. And when Mika gave it to him, he should have taken the shot, but he gave it back to Mika instead. And, well, the goalie makes a great save. The Devils get the puck, go on a breakaway. Next thing you know, it's 6-3. So instead of being a 1-goal game with the Rangers having a chance to claw back in this thing, they ended up, really putting the nail in their own coffin and giving it a 6-goal or a 6-3 lead, 3-goal deficit, and the Rangers never recovered. They ended up losing the game 7-4. They had a couple of guys in that second period, namely Reeves and Alexis Lafreniere, were benched for the first 10 minutes of that period as Gerard Gallant, the head coach, was rolling with only 3 lines. Now, I'm a big fan of Gerard Gallant. I think that he has done a spectacular job with this team. I think he's done a spectacular job communicating with the players and the media and the fans and everything. I think he's done a great job. I will say this, early in the season, he singled out Lafreniere a couple of times for mid-game benchings, for bad play. He had a scratch earlier this year too, which I agreed with. I don't mind the hard love. And especially with a guy like Gallant, he's the type of head coach that has a short memory. So he could bench you here for a period of time, but then he could pick you right back up and throw you back out there and act like nothing happened and give you a chance to prove yourself. Last night, that wasn't the case, because as soon as he threw Lafreniere and Reeves back on the ice, they gave up another goal immediately. And, that was the real shame of it. But aside from that, I will say last night, I don't think Lafreniere was the biggest problem with them. There are problems all over the place. And Chris Drury, Chris Kreider, and even Zibanejad at times were part of that, and they never missed a shift. Now, I don't know. How do you feel about this? Because even though I understand that Lafreniere is still a young kid and you're still trying to teach him things and drill things in his head, I don't think that singling him out like that in a game where the entire team is playing terribly is really the best thing for him and his confidence at this point in the season. What do you think, Dan?
I feel the same way. I felt it wasn't the right time. This is right now where all hands on deck, and giving him a chance to rebound.
Yeah, give him a chance to rebound and dig himself out of that hole that him and the rest of the team dug for themselves, and it was certainly a hole that they couldn't. But Lafreniere was playing decent in that game. I mean, this is a guy who had an assist on the first goal of the game. It was him, Zibanejad, and Kreider not giving up on those early plays that led to that goal being kicked out by Kreider and put in the back of the net by Zibanejad. So, I mean, it's not like he was playing terribly the whole game. And by the time that he was playing worse, than he had been, the rest of the team stunk too. Nemeth and Braun, that combination looked awful. And I've been up and down on Nemeth this year. He has been, he's been okay. But, I mean, combined, they were a -4 in that game. I don't think it's really Braun's fault. I think Braun played pretty well. He's a good defensive positioning guy. But I'll tell you this much. I really want to see Braun paired with Schneider. I want to see Schneider back in there. What'd you think of Schneider being the odd man out in the game yesterday? And how do you think he's played so far since his promotion to the NHL?
I think he's been playing decent. He seems to have a lot of upside.
No doubt about it. I mean, he's the big kid the Rangers just took at the number 21 overall pick, a year or two ago, whenever it was. And or not, it wasn't 21, it was 19, I'm sorry. And this is a kid that really played well in Hartford. He earned his spot, and he played so well that he forced Niles Lundqvist down there. Not that Lundqvist was playing bad up here too, but I think the Rangers were just really intrigued with Schneider's athleticism and his size and his ability to play defense at this level. Not to mention also, they've really stressed the last couple of weeks that they really wanted Niles Lundqvist to get used to the American-sized rinks. If you're not familiar, the European rinks are much larger than American rinks, and there's much more room, for movement, and 5-on-5 doesn't feel quite as restrictive as it does here in the States at the AHL level and in the NHL level. So Niles Lundqvist just needs a little seasoning with that. And what were you going to say?
If you've watched hockey during the Olympics, you probably noticed how bigger some of the rings are.
It's something you don't think about a lot, but once you see it, you notice it right away. And no doubt about it, like you said, you definitely notice it in hockey. And not that anybody really watched the hockey this year, because unfortunately it wasn't any of the any of the real pros.
Yeah, but if you remember, I think probably if you go back to 2014, maybe the last time I really had my eyes on Olympic hockey when we had the pros there. That's when you realized how bigger the rings were.
Oh, no doubt about it. And you notice it immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, we got that right now. With the just to finish up on the Rangers a little bit. I'm still very optimistic with this team. I still think, and you know what? This might not be the worst thing in the world either. They're working in new players. They're still trying to figure out how to play with each other and still trying to figure out what the other guy's tendencies are and everything along those lines. But I will say that this is a good wake-up call where when you go in the playoffs, you're going to be tested left and right. You're going to take punches to the mouth. And if there is ever a punch to the mouth, it's allowing 5 goals in one period. That'll humble you, and that'll, set you straight real freaking quick. But before we move on from the Rangers, actually, I don't want to concentrate all on the negativity because before the trade deadline, we had a pretty damn good weekend. And the Rangers went out on Saturday night and beat Tampa Bay, the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions, 2-1 behind Igor Shesterkin. And then they went to Carolina on Sunday night in one of the more improbable, insane efforts that you'll ever see from an NHL goaltender. The Rangers ended up winning this game 2-0, but they are outchanced, outshot, outplayed, outclassed in every way you could imagine, except for the goaltender and Alexei and Alexander Georgiev, who has been a much maligned character for the Rangers over the last year or two, as the backup goalie behind Shesterkin. Everybody groans when you see him in the net, aside from Shesterkin. But
that was actually one of the two games I didn't get to see because of the outage I was experiencing on my end.
Well, you missed a hell of a game, buddy, because Georgiev stood on his head as the Rangers were outshot 44-17. Georgiev stopped all 44 of those shots. It was really reminiscent of a game a few years ago, if you remember, against the Toronto Maple Leafs, where when the Rangers had just traded everybody, it was after the deadline. The team was pared down and really an AHL squad at this point. And Georgiev went out there and made 50 plus saves. I believe it was 54 out of 55 he stopped in that game as Rangers beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-1. And boy, he was even better tonight than he was that on Sunday night than he was on that night. Just a hell of a performance. And what are your feelings on Georgiev now? Are you confident in him as the backup? Because the Rangers committed to him for the rest of this year and this playoff run as being their backup if they need him. And you know what? I think he showed that he at least deserves that opportunity on Sunday night.
Oh, I feel he so far he'll be decent backup the rest during this stretch run, because hopefully it doesn't come down to it, but God forbid it does come down to it. We need to be able to have that backup ready to go, and I'm hoping Georgiev will have his A game ready to go.
I agree, man. And this is the type of guy that he needs to have that playing time to stay sharp. You can't let him sit for 3 weeks or a month without playing and expect him to come in and jump right back in, as we saw a couple of games ago where he was getting lit up and he's giving up these easy goals and everybody's pulling their hair out and you're saying to yourself, what the hell are they doing starting this guy? But then he shows you when you do give him some playing time, he rewards you like he did on Sunday night. And they're going to have to use him over this last month of the season, as Georgiev, he'll probably be starting a few. The Rangers are going to have a bunch of back-to-backs. They at least have 3, maybe even 4 back-to-backs in April. So you're going to see a good amount of Georgiev, as it's going to take a group effort, depending where the Rangers finish right now. If we're looking at the division, it's a 5-point differential between the Rangers and the first place Carolina Hurricanes. The Penguins are 2 points ahead of the Rangers right now, but that'll be the next game they play on Friday night when it's Rangers in Pittsburgh at Madison Square Garden. Hopefully we could get a little revenge for Jari shutting us out in Pittsburgh about a month ago. So it'd be real nice to see that. What were you going to say?
Of course, that bad ref call. Of course, they called something that should have been an embellishment penalty when we know Crosby cough embellishment.
Yep, Crosby, man, this freaking guy has been getting that crap. He's getting those calls for refs for the last 15 years, and it's been driving us Rangers fans crazy for that whole time too.
He's the Pittsburgh Penguins are the New England Patriots of hockey.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so as with that, we'll move on from a little hockey right now. We'll keep cruising along And I figure, as a matter of fact, we'll finish with baseball today because there is a little football. I know the Giants don't really have much going on right now. They did make a signing, a little under the radar signing today. Um, but the Giants have kind of been flying under the radar, just biding their time until this NFL draft next month. But I don't know if you saw this earlier today, Dan, but the Jets were involved in a big trade discussion that was going on earlier today, as the Kansas City Chiefs were getting ready to trade star wide receiver, world champion Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had desires of becoming the highest paid wide receiver in football. The Chiefs just simply didn't have that cap room. They couldn't make that a reality, but they were doing right by Tyreek Hill, and they went out and they got offers for him, and then brought the offers to Hill, and allowed him to make this decision. And the ultimate decision that he ended up choosing was the Miami Dolphins, but it came down to the Dolphins and the Jets, and the Jets had offered 2 second-round picks. The Jets had the 35th, the 38th pick, and the 69th pick. So that's 2 second-round picks and a third-round pick for Hill. And instead, the Dolphins responded with a 5-pick package that included a late first-round pick this year, the 29th overall pick, and still, actually, if you were going to go on the flow chart that the NFL uses, that gives point values to draft picks, and the Jets actually still outbid the Miami Dolphins. So anybody that is saying the Jets could have upped their bid and this, that, no, the Kansas City Chiefs were fully prepared to accept the Jets offer for Tyreek Hill. And unfortunately, and you can't really blame the guy, he wants to go to Miami, but you got that great weather. You probably have a better team, and you also have no state income tax. So the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL doesn't have to worry about that coming to New York. But did you hear about any of this, Dan?
Grandma,
Did you hear after this technical difficulties? Did you hear anything about this Tyreek Hill situation earlier today?
Yeah, I heard about that, and I said, "Man, it was a lot." Every Jet fan I know has to feel the same way I feel every time we hear all these stars that are going to come to the Knicks, and they pass on us.
Yeah,
Equivalent to that, and I could go back to the whole LeBron James thing. Remember how that was? We were all LeBron's coming to the Knicks. Oh boy, it's going to be big. And then all of a sudden, I wasted my time watching that shit show on ESPN, only to be disappointed. And I may have been cursing like crazy, and I may have been letting Malunigan and Rosie say she was still alive. I may have been letting them do their business on pictures of LeBron James. And same thing happened with another Knicks offseason. Remember that offseason we were getting the number 1 draft pick? I'm watching the draft lottery. I'm at John Sullivan's because it was after an Eastside Dave show. I'm watching this draft lottery. I think Dave was there. I'm excited. And Big A was like shocked at the cursing I was coming out of my mouth after that one. I may have had a couple of Stellas in me after that one. And then all of a sudden, we lose out all the free agents to our rival in the Barclays Center.
Of course, yeah.
That's what Jet fans experienced recently.
No doubt about it, man. As you can't knock the Jets for this. Look, the type of fan I am. You've seen me. I'm more critical of my teams than people from the outside because I feel like I have to be fair. I feel like if my team does something stupid, they should be called out for it. Or if they do something wrong, that I should be upset about it. And I shouldn't sit here and carry their water. I shouldn't sit here and protect them. I'm going to sit here and be one of their biggest critics when you screw up, because guess what? I want to win. That's that's the name of the game. And you know what? I cannot criticize, and I've been seeing it on social media all day. Jet fans criticizing Joe Douglas, criticizing the organization as a whole. Which, look, the organization should be criticized. They've missed the playoffs for 11 straight years now. There's plenty to criticize about the New York Jets organization, but if you're gonna knock them, do it within reason. The Jets do not deserve to be killed for this move today, for not getting this move done today. I even saw Mike Francesa, who, I agree with a lot of the time in situations like this, where he was coming after the Jets and saying they should have tried to negotiate with Tyreek Hill's agent and everything. Look, I don't think that would have mattered. I remember when I was first hearing about this morning, right around sometime around 11 a.m. this morning, I heard, oh, the Jets are, have potential of picking up, Tyreek Hill right after Adam Schefter reported it from ESPN, the NFL, and all that, and then so I had about an hour to torture myself and think about the possibilities of adding Tyreek Hill. Obviously, it didn't pan out, but you can't sit here and say that Tyreek Hill would have come to the Jets if he talked to his agent. He pretty much took the equivalent of 10 minutes to figure out, okay, Miami or the Jets. Okay, I'm going to Miami. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit here and scream that Joe Douglas should have jumped on a plane right at that minute and flown to wherever Tyreek Hill is and thrown him in a sack and brought him to the to freaking MetLife Stadium? That's not realistic. The guy was going to make his decision. And unfortunately, just like you said, Dan, when you were alluding to it before, talking about all the free agents not coming to the Knicks, the Jets are not an attractive destination right now. And I think they're in the process of changing that perception, but it's just not reality yet, right?
Yeah, it's not reality yet. And unfortunately, you can't, don't shoot the messenger right now. It's just he felt he had his chances, I guess, were better in Miami, and more power to him. And I guess enjoy that warm weather.
Yeah, enjoy the beach, enjoy the warm weather. Although you probably won't be enjoying the playoffs, unfortunately. And I'm not going to say that the Jets probably won't be enjoying the playoffs either, but just the fact that Dolphins won't be there too makes me feel a little bit better.
Believe me, I out that my cousin in South Florida, he's a Dolphin season ticket holder, so I know exactly what he goes to.
Yeah, the Dolphins, they've had their ups and their downs, but yeah, it's been a lot more down lately. Much like my Jets, although they are coming off a pretty impressive season after they started terribly. So it's going to be interesting to see how they change in this offseason now that Brian Flores isn't there, and if this new head coach gets the same reception out of these guys, and how Tua progresses too. That's really what it's going to come down to, because Waddle and Tyreek Hill, both on the outside there for the Dolphins, that's a dangerous duo, no doubt about that. So I hope the Jets are listening when I say I want to see a really good cornerback in the draft. You have 2 top 10 picks. Get me Sauce Gardner. Let's do it. Let's do it up. So I guess who one of the guys I'm going to be picking in our official Best Seat in the House podcast mock draft in a couple of weeks, who I'm going to be picking. But okay, so we got that out of the way right now. There's really not any more big football news. I mean, unless there's any other Giants things you want to add to that, Dan.
I think that's pretty much all the big news there is lately, football wise.
Yeah. Still, I mean, and football wasn't even really going to be a big topic for us today, because they're really, all the big moves are kind of done. But when that popped up earlier today, I was like, oh crap, now I got to talk about the Jets blowing another one. But like I said, it's not really, you can't blame them.
Yeah, but I kind of wish Beningo was alive to see what he would have to say about this one. Don't you wish? I mean, he's not alive. I mean, unretired.
I was going to say Joe Beningo is very much alive. Actually,
I'm sorry about that. Unretired.
No worries, no worries. He's not going to hear this anyway. But the one thing you could check out, he actually does a podcast now, the Oh the Pain podcast. If you're a Jets fan or if you've listened to Beningo on the Fan, he always talks about the pain of being a Met fan and a Jet fan. So that's the name of his podcast, the Oh the Pain podcast. You can check that out. It's great. I was actually just listening to it yesterday. He did a podcast of the top 10 worst Jet losses of all time. And oh my God, I wasn't alive for a few of them, obviously the older ones and everything. But boy, oh boy, he was talking about a couple that I lived through myself, including the Doug Bryan game in Pittsburgh in 2004 in the divisional playoff game. That, him bringing that up was just the only thing he could say is, oh, the pain. Oh, the pain.
I could hear some upset people in my neighborhood during that game, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember watching that game with a bunch of my buddies, and the only people that were happy when we were leaving my house that night are the Giant fans. But okay, so we'll keep moving on here now as we'll come down to the final leg of our show here tonight. And boy, these things just fly by, don't they? As
Yep.
as soon as me and you start talking, man, that just the ability to bullshit. But so we'll turn our attentions back to baseball. And me and you are Met fans, obviously, as if you can't tell. So we'll start off with the Yankees here real quick, because once again, there really isn't much going on. I mean, they played they've been playing spring training games for the last couple of days as the Yankees, start to get settled in. And they had, this little tiff brewing with Aaron Judge. So have you heard anything about this, Dan? They have an arbitration case right now. As you saw, the Mets yesterday settled a whole bunch of arbitration cases before, as we'll get into in a minute, Jacob deGrom made his spring debut. So the Mets settled a whole bunch of cases. They had Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso, J.D. Davis, Seth Lugo, whole bunch of big names you can imagine, because yesterday was the deadline to get a lot of that stuff done. The Yankees had a lot of cases too on the table, got most of them done. One of the guys that they didn't get done, Aaron Judge, the face of the Yankees, and really up until his couple of injury-riddled seasons, for a couple of years, he was the face of baseball. He was on every video game, every poster, everything you could possibly see. And the Yankees are lowballing this guy. So the word is right now, it's coming out, is that Aaron Judge requested $21 million. This is a guy who hit 39 home runs last year, had a fantastic season, not only the face of the Yankees, one of the best players on that team. And the Yankees only offered him $17 million in turn. Now, look, now you got to say only 17 million. I'm talking about relative numbers here right now. Obviously, $17 million is not a slap in the face to anybody. It's a lot of money. But what I'm saying here is that the guy wants 21 million and you're offering 17. Why not just give him that extra couple of million to make him happy, especially when you're trying to work out a long-term extension with the guy? Right? I mean, if you're a Yankee fan, Dan, and if I'm a Yankee fan, I want to see Aaron Judge get an extension, right?
Yeah, of course.
Now, how do you think he's going to respond to the Yankees lowballing him here for a couple of million? Don't you think the right move would be just to give him, even if it's not 21, let's just say maybe the Yankees offer 20, 19 and a half, whatever it is, try to meet him. But 17, like for, having this little tiff with Aaron Judge just is right before the season, as a matter of fact, just does not seem productive to me.
Yeah, it does not seem productive. And I feel like it could backfire even during the off season.
Exactly. When you're trying to sign him, he's not going to forget this. Now, look, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that, he's going to leave the Yankees and sign with the Mets, which wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that just be great just to be a Met fan and see the day Aaron Judge signs with orange and blue?
I would not know how to react with that one. I'd be like, I'd be like shocked if I'd be turning on my Twitter feed and I'm seeing what is is this some joke? Is this some joke? Like what? If I had that reaction, I'd be shocked to be able to live through the day that I'd be able to have that reaction on Twitter. That would shock me.
That's when you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, is this the fake John Heyman account? Is this the fake Ken Rosenthal account? Who the hell's screwing with me here?
Bob Nightingale said, because we all know Bob Nightingale, how he's pretty much the CNN of baseball announcements.
Hashtag fake news.
Yep.
That's just like
that GIF on him every time he tweets something.
All you have to do is follow Tomas Nido to know how seriously Major League Baseball players take his reporting. As I'll never forget. I remember the day that Trevor Bauer signed at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bob Nightingale reported that he was going to the Mets, and I remember being pumped and being very upset with Bob afterwards. But I guess after everything that transpired for Trevor Bauer over the last year, I guess the Mets dodged a bullet there.
Yep, looks like we dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah. So, before we get to the Mets too, it's not like Aaron Judge is holding out or anything. Aaron Judge played today. Giancarlo Stanton hit a home run actually, as the Yankees are smacking Baltimore right now. Shocking, 7-1, and they when you see Aaron Judge, it just seems to me. Now I see people have also pointed out that in 1999, or it might have been 98, but I think it was 99, Derek Jeter went to arbitration for the first time, and the Yankees actually ended up going to the arbitrator with him too. So there is a history to this. One thing I will say to that though is that by 1999, the Yankees already had 2 world championships in 96 and 98 in their back pocket. So, maybe they kind of felt that they were doing the right thing, going by the book, whatever, doing exactly what you're supposed to do. But with Aaron Judge right now, the Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009, which, obviously being Met fans, that doesn't really seem that long. We haven't won since 1986, but, the Yankees haven't won since 2009, which is long for the Yankees. And it just doesn't seem like good mojo, good karma, or anything for the Yankees to be lowballing this guy right now. Just give him what he wants. Try to get this extension done as soon as possible, too, by the way. As the Yankees just unloaded, a very unpopular Gary Sanchez. The Yankees, you'd think there'd be more good feelings in Yankee land, but there doesn't seem to be. It seems to be very negative these days. What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I get that. I'm assuming that's what's been going on. The way it's been looking, doesn't look good. There seems to be like not a lot of animosity in the clubhouse. It's just like things that I'm kind of like unheard of seeing with the Yankees. As much as I'm a Met fan, I gotta say that I do not think this kind of thing would be happening if Steinbrenner was still alive.
It's true, man, because you know what? One thing, I'll tell you this right now. If George Steinbrenner was alive, the chances, in my opinion, of Max Scherzer being a Met right now are 0. Because I'm not saying I think that the Mets wouldn't have signed him right now. I think the Yankees would have signed him in 2015. I don't think they would have let him go to the Nationals. I still can't believe the Yankees didn't sign Max Scherzer all those years ago because the Yankees needed him. Now, the Yankees went out and paid big money for Tanaka just a year or two before that. So maybe they were already hurting a little bit financially in that respect. But boy, could you imagine what that rotation would have looked like, especially when they turned things around in 2017 with Max Scherzer in that playoff run? Instead of running some of these guys out there that they had to when they were just keeping their fingers crossed and hoping things worked out. I think I think Scherzer on the Yankees back then really would have changed things up. What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I think I probably would have been not wanting to look at the TV that during that time period.
That's
Because
true. You know what?
I never lose when the Yankees have won the World Series. I would it was not something I liked seeing those guys celebrating
Very true.
when
Very true.
up with years of not getting to know what that's like.
Well, let me ask you this before we jump on the Mets now, as we get to our last topic here. 2019. Obviously, it was Astros and Nationals in the World Series, and the Nationals got their ring that made, signing that Scherzer contract worth it for them, as they got that one ring, and that's what matters. They won the World Series during his tenure there, and they got the job done. But if you had to choose as a Mets fan, would you? Let's say the Yankees got through Houston that year, and it was Yankees Nationals in the World Series. Who were you rooting for in that series?
I have no idea, because that would be like having to choose between going to probably the Antarctica during the coldest time of the year, because I would not have any idea what would be worse: seeing national fans troll me on Twitter, or being trolled by every Yankees fan because we live in a city with two teams. I'd be seeing every Yankees fan that lives in the area trolling me.
See, it's true. And then you have to kind of think about it where it's like, do I want to, live with the devil I know, which is the Yankees winning because we've been alive for the last 30 years and almost 40 years, and we've seen the Yankees win 5 World Series and go to 7 World Series in our lifetime? Or would you want to deal with the devil you don't know, as the former Montreal Expos, who never had any success outside of 1981? They made the playoffs that year, and then once they moved to the Nationals, and really the first couple of years of that franchise they still stunk, but by 2012, under former Mets manager Davey Johnson, which everybody forgets he was there for that couple of year run, they really turned things around, and became really, since 2012, they've been one of the better franchises in baseball.
The 2012 team, that team just had one little flaw in 2012, and I think that was Strasburg not being able to pitch in a postseason that year,
which was ridiculous. And I think it proved how ridiculous it was over the next few years, because, they didn't have any postseason success until 2019, when Strasburg went out there and dominated the world. You go into 2012, you sit your best pitcher. That's the dumbest thing ever. That would have been like in 2015 if the Mets didn't play Matt Harvey. Who knows what happens? They probably don't get out. They probably don't beat the Dodgers, even if that happens. Get out of the first round. But who knows? But so to keep rolling on here right now, as we're coming to the end, we're going to be talking the New York Metropolitans right now. Our favorite team, no doubt about it. We saw Jacob deGrom get on the hill yesterday for the first time, and looked really good. Struck out the side in the first inning, just throwing absolute dirty pitches already, and then struck out 2 out of the 3 batters he faced in the second inning. Threw 30 pitches, struck out 5 batters. What are your thoughts on Jake right now? It's his first appearance since last July. July 7th was the last time he'd been on a mound. He said there was a little nerves, which is always good to see. He's still got that feeling. He still loves being out there, obviously, and loves competing. So, what were your thoughts when you saw Jake on the mound for the first time in 8-9 months yesterday?
Well, what I saw was, for one thing, I know Jacob probably had the nerves about wanting to get through this one unscathed without anything going south with him wise. And I felt like he looked like he was laser focused. I mean, this was a spring training game, but he was laser focused on what he felt he needed to do and what he needed to show that he was ready, that he was on track to be ready in time for the season. And this is going to be an intriguing spring training because normally we might see the first two starts 2 innings. He might probably go 4 innings or 5 innings the next start because of how short the spring training is this year.
Now, I don't know about that because I was thinking the same thing too. I thought they were going to have Jake throw more than just 2 innings and 30 pitches. But you know what? I get it. It's early. You want to take your time with Jake. You don't want him to hurt himself, God forbid. And you also don't want to compare him to Scherzer because it looks like Scherzer is a bit ahead of the curve right now. Max Scherzer, the day before Jake on Monday, started a game on the road against the Miami Marlins. He threw 5 innings, let 3 hits, 1 run, struck out 5 or 6 batters, looked really good through 72 pitches. He was really baffling the Miami hitters at times. And, it just to sit here and try to compare them because that's all everybody's going to do all year. And ever since Scherzer signed here is compare Jake to Max. But it looks to me like Max was working out. And, obviously we knew he was because he came here ready to go. Jake, I don't know about that. Jake might have been a little bit more hesitant considering the fact that of his injury in that ended his season last year. So I think maybe Jake kind of backed off a little bit. So we heard from Buck Showalter, the Mets' new manager, after Jake started the other day, and he said his plan right now is to progress deGrom, that they want him by opening day. Their plan for him on opening day is 5 innings and 75 pitches. So it's a little disappointing, especially since we just saw Max Scherzer throw that in a preseason game the other day. I mean, shit, Scherzer's going to be able to go a complete game by the time we roll around to opening day. But it looks like they're not going to do that with Jake, unfortunately. What do you think about that, Dan? Do you think they should try to push him, or do you think that they're doing the right thing, taking it slow?
I think they might need to go like a little middle ground because I feel he's capable of pitching a bit more, but I understand where they're going, and I hope we got the bullpen to be able to maybe to support the first 1 or 2 starts, and hopefully once those after maybe the 3rd or 4th start, it's Jacob at full force. But for now, hopefully I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I feel there's just something with the relievers and this uniform. It goes in our favor.
Yeah, this is true too, because the least amount of times that you show the Mets bringing in relief pitchers, the better it is for us, because boy, they've got guys like Edwin Diaz have given me some gray hairs over the years, and I'm sure you too, my friend.
Exactly, and my friend, one of my friends on Twitter had a question about us if we felt we made enough moves to contend for a World Series. I feel we are and I feel we made that progress to get close right there. I feel we need to sign at least one more reliever, and the trading deadline where we're at and our ability to make that move at the trading deadline is going to be the difference in the outcome of our season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, man. To be honest with you, like I think the Mets right now are right there. They're right there. I think they have so much going in their favor right now. Uh, but there's one name right now where I could say for sure if the Mets got this guy, I'd be putting my money on them to win the World Series right now on any of these sports books that you can get online right now. Uh, and that name is Josh Hader, the lefty from the Milwaukee Brewers, their reliever. Um, I think a dominant back end left-handed reliever like that is exactly what the Mets are missing, especially in this division. You got to remember who are we going to be getting out this this season now? Now that this is we got guys like Juan Soto in our division. We got guys now like Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Matt Olson. There are so many left-handed bats that the Mets are going to have to deal with in this division alone. Not even going to anything else. You face the Yankees, guys like Anthony Rizzo, Joey Gallo, and when you go in, there are a ton of these devastating lefties. Who are you gonna if the Mets play a playoff series against the Milwaukee Brewers? Who are they bringing in late in the game to get out a guy like Christian Yelich? Right now, nobody knows. Right now, it's anybody's guess. Who knows? It could be anything. So I want a guy. And look, I know that Milwaukee, like I just said, they're going to be in position to win their division too. So they really are not motivated to trade Josh Hader, and that's probably a big problem with it. But I'm telling you right now, I would be ringing Stearns, the general manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, his phone off the hook. I'd be offering Ronnie Mauricio. I'd be offering all my top prospects, aside from like maybe, I don't know, one or two guys I'd hold back on. But other than that, what do you think about that, Dan? If the Mets added a guy like Hader, is that the type of guy that you think could put them over the top too?
I believe so too. That be a reliever I feel might help make it a little bit more less nervous to me during looking like that, looking like Sanford and Son whenever the Mets are facing that Bryce Harper. I can't. I admit to getting annoyed with that hair because if he did would have been a Met had Steve Cohen owned the team back then.
He definitely would have. I agree. Either him or maybe Manny Machado, or who knows, maybe even both, with the way Stevie Cohen spends. So that would that would definitely have changed the balance of power, no doubt about that. But and so we'll get into predictions and everything next week. But though, you actually were the man on the scene earlier last weekend. I think it was Saturday that you were at Donovan's Pub out in Woodside, and we did get a couple of questions. I only pulled one of them though, and I thought this is a really good question based off what happened to Pete Alonso. So let's see. We'll have this gentleman right here, a patron at Donovan's, asking us what we think about Pete Alonso.
Just wondering if Pete Alonso is going to be 100% for the year after the car accident.
All right. So did you hear that, Dan?
Yep, I heard that. He was about the car crash incident, which I gotta say I'm blessed to see that Pete and everyone in the car with him was okay, because I've heard story. I got friends who I know, people who are medics and medical professionals, and when they tell you they've seen everything, they mean it. And plus, I've even seen I have an uncle who's a retired cop, and when he was a cop, he used to tell me about the things he used to see. Sometimes you deal with stuff seen aftermath of these accidents, and you really have to give a round of applause when you see anyone come out of those things okay in one piece. Everyone in the scene of the accident are able to are walking around fine and everything, and we're able to shrug off what happened. At the same time, only time will tell, because I do have to admit that sometimes things kind of linger, so we don't really know for sure.
It's true. Sometimes people that have whiplash or anything with that, like injuries resulting like that from a automobile accident, just like you said, you don't notice it for days, maybe even sometimes weeks later, because the adrenaline and everything really just helped your body mask that injury for whatever time period it was. So I definitely agree with you that let's be careful with Pete, because who knows what could have possibly happened. I mean, that crash was horrific. If you didn't hear, Pete Alonso was T-boned while him and his wife were going down to Port St. Lucie in spring training to meet the club. And while Pete was going through a light on his side that was green, a distracted driver ran a red light and hit Pete in, I believe it must have been the passenger side, because if it was the driver's side, then Pete's even luckier than I thought. But it must have hit him on the passenger side, which, thank God, too, his wife wasn't in the car with him. His wife was following behind and watched the whole scene unfold. So it must have been horrifying for her. But, luckily, the big animal, the big polar bear that Pete Alonso is, the car flipped over 3 times, and all he did was get a little scratch on his forearm, and he kicked out the windshield to exit the vehicles before the emergency response team showed up. So, thank God Pete's okay. I think, I still think that Pete is going to have a good year. He rebounded last year and had a pretty good year, hit 37 home runs, drove in 90 plus runs. He had a crappy 2020, but then again, who didn't really? And
A lot of players during 2020, because they were about to start up the season, and he had to slow down because of the COVID shutdown, and then they had to revamp things up pretty quickly. Plus, I felt like the short season maybe didn't favor some people, because sometimes they kind of get going as the season goes along, so everything kind of had to be like had to get off right out off the bat. So it kind of hampered some teams, I feel, that season.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I think that's even why it played even more so into the Dodgers' hands winning the World Series that year, because we all know the most talented team doesn't win the World Series every year. The 2019 Washington Nationals were not the most talented team in baseball that year. Teams like the Yankees, teams like the Houston Astros, teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers, all those teams were much more talented than the Washington Nationals team. But you know what the Nationals had going for them? That they just clicked at the right time, and they got hot, and you could not stop them. And their offense was incredible. So even though their rotation outside of Strasburg and Scherzer stunk, and their bullpen stunk, their offense was good enough to bail them out when it needed, and those pitchers were able to get the outs when it counted. So, whether you like them or not, that team won the World Series that year. And I don't think, and I agree with you, because not to mention too, the Washington Nationals were 17 and 31 after 48 games in the 2019 season. So in 2020, they would have been dead and buried by game 48. There was only 60 games. So they wouldn't have even been able to get to 500, much less get themselves in the playoffs and on a World Series run. So there's definitely a lot of merit to what you just said, Dan. And I think getting back to Pete Alonso, I think he's going to have a pretty good season. What do you think about what do you think?
I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to have a pretty good season already on this guy that's been he's been breaking so many team records left and right. Just his first year alone, he freaking broke the team all-time home run record, all-time rookie record in 1 year. And I think he may have been the first, may have been, maybe I might be wrong, but I think that's the first time I've ever seen a rookie win the home run derby. He had one heck of a season in his first year alone. And
no doubt about it.
And there's going to be a lot of upside. I hope I can look back years from now that we have gotten to see one of the greats on this team.
Yeah, hey, and not only was he a rookie killing it with all those records and everything, Pete Alonso was the first Met, period, to ever hit 50 home runs. So you got to tip your cap to that to Pete. He's a hell of a player. So glad the Mets have him. You could tell such a big hulking individual. Really great to have him on this team. And I think we're primed for a big year out of Pete and a big year out of the Mets. And so with that, I think we're just about done for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of the Best Seat in the House podcast. Next week, we're going to be doing our baseball preview show. So, Dan, if you want, get your notepad out and write down who you think all the division winners are going to be. And you know what? As a matter of fact, let's throw in our predictions for MVP and Cy Young as well. So we'll be giving our predictions for the winners of the AL and the NL East, the AL and the NL Central, and the AL and the NL West. The couple of wild cards, especially the new ones that they've added. We now have 12 teams making the playoffs every year as opposed to 10. And also, we'll give our MVP, Cy Young, and World Series predictions. So we got a lot on tap, not to mention our NFL preview show or NFL draft preview show, our mock draft, which is going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for sticking with us here on Best Seat in the House podcast. And before we get out of here, Dan, give yourself a plug.
Yeah, I'd like to, of course, plug. You can follow me on Twitter, Bobo103NYC on Twitter. And, of course, I'm Bobo718DK on Instagram. And, of course, on YouTube, Daniel Kurlan, and it's one word, on my YouTube channel. I have some videos out that I've had on my YouTube, and there's going to be plenty more. You can even watch some of the classics, even some videos that I originally filmed for the Eastside Dave show, which, by the way, one of those videos you got to be a part of too, Robert, by the way.
Very true. The video that won the contest, by the way.
Yep, that video is an award-winning video, by the way, if you ask me. I still had a lot of fun filming that video. I was trying to hold myself from laughing as lines off the script. So it still makes me laugh looking at that video to this day. And I still hear some people talking about how they love that video. So
yeah, that was me, you, and the great Stevie Lou, by the way, too, who is one of the best people ever. You got to love Stevie Lou. And Dan actually, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Lou did a hilarious job as that pizza guy, by the way.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Stevie Lou is freaking hilarious. And you got to catch him on stage too, if you can at any time. Stevie Lou is great. Great young comedian, no doubt about that. And also, Dan, if you get a chance, tweet that video. We'll promote it. Everybody can check that out. If you listen to this right now, it was a lot of fun. We did it a couple of years ago, or it might have even been 2020, whenever it was. So tweet that video. I'll retweet it and we'll put it out to our social media feed. And you can check it out. I'll put all of our handles down here at the bottom. Obviously, at BSith_podcast is our Twitter account, and Best Seat in the House podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Please check that out. We're having a lot of fun doing this right now, and we're going to keep it rolling, buddy. So I'm your host, Rob Cramer, along with my co-host and buddy, Daniel Kurlan. Thanks for sticking with us here on episode 3, and we'll catch you next time.